من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the Master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. It is said that there was a man who is a known philosopher by the name of Iqbal. And Iqbal is very prominently known as coming out of the Indian subcontinent as an individual who had numerous credentials. He could speak many languages, and he is so accomplished that he actually gets to a point where people want to give him knighthood. And so Iqbal, when he is about to be bestowed of this honor of knighthood, he says to those who want to give him this honor that if you were to give me this honor, I need for you to also give it to my teacher who taught me when I was younger. And the individuals who wanted to bestow upon him this honor of knighthood, they were saying to Iqbal that we have never heard of your teacher before, this man whose name you are bringing up to us. Can you tell us anything about him? What has he written? What are his books? And Iqbal says to them that I am his book. And it's an important point for us to understand and think about that this man who had a profound impact on the lives of so many during his time as well as so many since the time he was in this world, he attributes much of where he was to an individual that no one knew him other than Iqbal. But had that man not been in Iqbal's life, the person who Iqbal was potentially could have been someone who was so different. And as you and I today come together to commemorate and celebrate 50 years of MSA National, 50 years of Muslim students working and striving and trying to achieve for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, 50 years of young men and young women learning about their potential, gaining the courage to go to fully reach the heights that they are able to, despite any of the risks or any of the things that they would have to exhaust in order to get to that point. It's important for us to understand this thing. Because just like Iqbal was shaped and fashioned by the teacher that he had when he was young, so many of us would not be who we are today if it were not for this beautiful organization. We pray, inshallah ta'ala, that at 50 years on this day, that 50 more years will come. And beyond that, another 50 years and another 50 years. And within each year, you will find young men and young women who continue to be impacted in the way that so many hearts have been impacted over the last 5 decades. We are at a point where it is critical in this formative period of a young Muslim man and woman's identity that they are positively reinforced by influences that tell them that not only do you have a right to engage your Islam, but it is so important and crucial that you do. That at universities throughout this country, Muslims for the first time in many of their lives are learning to engage not just people from different walks of life, but for many of them it's the first time that they're meeting Muslims from a different walk of life. So many of my students at New York University, for the first time in their life after 17 or 18 years of living, are now meeting a Muslim who's of a different ethnic or cultural background, who practices their Islam differently, who comes from a different socioeconomic reality. that it's not simply that we all speak the same language, we all eat the same food, we all wear the same clothing, we all have access to the same resources, but we are actually seeing people who are coming from different places, and we start to understand that our life experiences are not indicative of the life experiences of so many in the world around us. And then for so many, it's also the first time that in this formative phase of their identity, they begin to engage people beyond the Muslim community. Or for the very first time, they're engaging Muslims, having grown up not engaging any Muslims ever. Everything is diverse, everything is different, and everything is so critical and so crucial for that reason. That if I had to navigate it and walk through it on my own, where would I end up? Probably not in a place where I could really understand myself and what I'm about. The need for these young men and women to feel empowered through a frame of their religious identity is so critical and so crucial that you get to a place where if we really understood the silent majority of Muslims that are not being represented in the gatherings and conversations that are taking place within communities and masjids and things of the like across the country, we would be amazed. And so these people who are going to be our future teachers and educators, our future doctors and lawyers, our future engineers and academics, our journalists and people who are going into the arts and people who are going into the field of athletics, they are the ones that will start to enact effective change. And the MSA National is there to do it as a resource, as they have been doing for the last 50 years. While we try to expand and understand where we want to go and what successes we want to continue to achieve, goals are very critical and important. Strategy has to be in place so that the next 50 years don't simply mimic the last 50 years, but there's a continuance of growth. There's a continuance of things continuing to happen. It shouldn't be exactly the same because the people who sacrificed and gave up much for us to be where we are today, we owe it to them to do it a little bit different. Not just because we want to continue to grow, but as individuals, we have to understand that our growth is a key factor in the growth of the collective. Encourage those who are younger than you to understand why this is an important organization. And for those of you who are older and you have gone through it, understand how just because you are not in a university anymore doesn't mean that you should stop supporting the institution. Now, when you are in a different phase of life, it's critical that you still give back, not just in terms of experience, not just in terms of wisdom, but also give in terms of the skills that you acquired while you were at the university and even beyond it to enhance the MSA that you grew out of so that it could reach its potential best. So that it's doing more in terms of programs, so it's doing more in terms of service, so it's working beyond simply a student-run organization where students are entitled to be students, but they have to take on the role that many of their counterparts in other religious communities don't have to take on because there's professionals that are there that are helping to facilitate, and the students are honing in and able to develop on their leadership skills even more. In my experiences as an undergrad at New York University, we had to do all of the programs, we had to fundraise for iftars, we had to not only organize but give the Jummah khutbah, we also provided counseling to those who came with issues, questions on religion, we had to deal with the media, we had to do so many different things, and at the same time study for our pre-med exams, our LSATs, our GMATs, try to get internships, and just figure out what did life really mean. Other students don't have to go through this. And our Muslim students shouldn't have to go through things that students don't go through during a formative period of their identity. So for those of you who have graduated from the MSA, your time with the MSA hasn't stopped. You have to give back in whatever way you can so that those who are current students can continue to grow and continue to better themselves. We pray that inshallah ta'ala Allah Azza wa Jal continues to bless the leadership, the founders, and those who are currently engaged with this beautiful organization, MSA National. Inshallah ta'ala Allah Azza wa Jal will grant you and your loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. And we pray for the successes of this organization to be so impactful that it's something that brings benefit to those who founded it, not just in terms of this world, but in terms of their place in the next. Wallahu ta'ala alam wa billahi tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.